It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. The Daily Mirror publisher says sorry to Prince Harry as a court is told that bosses must have known about phone hacking carried out on an industrial scale. After his sex abuse verdict, Donald Trump to face questions about his political future, though not from his loyal base.
I'm going to deliver. I'm going to fight the witch hunt. I'm going to take care of clearing my name, and I look forward to doing
Congressman,
that.
Another Republican politician now claiming a witch hunt, this time a congressman accused of fraud and money laundering. In Pakistan, more protests and an internet shutdown as the former Prime Minister Imran Khan is detained for 8 days.
they are demanding change. They want the shape of this country to be completely different.
I don't care what they tell you in school. Cleopatra was black.
She has and the ancient Egyptian queen at the centre of a very modern row about race. Plus, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages. That's coming up in our press preview from 10:30. Hello there, good evening. It is the latest skirmish in the war between Prince Harry and the tabloids over privacy. Today, on the first day of a phone hacking trial at the High Court, the publisher of the Daily Mirror newspaper apologised unreservedly for unlawfully gathering information about the Duke of Sussex, they say, on one occasion. The court was also told the systemic use of private investigators by journalists to illegally obtain private information was authorised by senior editors, including Piers Morgan. Well, those were the first revelations in a case that will see a senior royal give evidence in court for the first time. Katie Spencer has this report.
For all those keeping count, this is Prince Harry versus the paper's Round 3. Joining him, 2 Coronation Street stars and a comedian's ex-wife. Little in common, bar the fact they all claim to have been subjected to the most intrusive methods of personal information gathering. In their opening argument, lawyers for Harry claiming that from his mother's death onwards, as a schoolboy, in the army, through to his life as a young adult, he was targeted by some Mirror Group journalists who didn't think twice about breaking the law to get their story. He claims they hacked his voicemail, causing no end of paranoia and distress to those closest to him, including former girlfriend Chelsea Davy, driving their breakup. Harry's barrister David Sherbon KC saying, Prince or not, the blatantly unlawful methods used to get information about Harry's life away from his royal duties was, quite frankly, appalling. As this trial gets underway, Harry and the other claimants will in turn be called to give evidence. It'll be the first time since the 19th century that a senior royal has been called to the witness box. And before he's even spoken a word, a victory of sorts.
In court documents released at the start of the trial, for the first time, MGN admitted to having learned one of its journalists paid a private investigator £75 to unlawfully find out what the Prince had been doing at London's China White nightclub on one night back in 2004, saying it apologised unreservedly and accepting the Prince was entitled to compensation. And that wasn't all.
While the publisher denies voicemail interception and any involvement in the case of Coronation Street actor Michael Lavelle, who was in court, they said where historical wrongdoing has taken place, we have made admissions, take full responsibility and apologise unreservedly. But we will vigorously defend against allegations of wrongdoing where our journalists acted lawfully.
MGN insists it is now a very different company. But in this case, the claimants' team alleged that over the course of 20 years at the Mirror, Sunday Mirror and Sunday People, unlawful information gathering was happening on an industrial scale, authorised by senior editors including Piers Morgan. Morgan has always denied any knowledge of phone hacking, but in court it was claimed that on one occasion he was seen standing in a group of reporters laughing whilst playing out an illegally obtained voicemail left by singer Paul McCartney. Prince Harry's hatred of the British tabloid press is well documented. He cited media intrusion as part of the reason he and his wife moved to America. And in just a few weeks' time, in his own words at this trial, he'll tell his side of that story. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Former US President Donald Trump will likely face questions from voters in a few hours' time about how he plans to run another presidential campaign after he was found to be a sex abuser. He has said he will appeal, but still faces multiple legal threats in several states. Those ongoing cases could sway the undecided voters, who will likely decide his political fate, but not his loyal base, as Mark Stone has been finding out in Mount Jackson, Virginia.
It is so often said that it's the people of the rural counties in just a few of America's states who can swing the country's direction. And in the shadow of Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains, Donald Trump has always found his loyalists. There are, of course, those who will never be moved. But beyond this loyalty, is there a line, a point of no return for the former president?
I don't think there's anybody that's in politics that haven't done something illegal or immoral.
Bobby Rosenberger is a health worker and a Trump voter.
What do you make of the news now that a jury in New York has concluded that he's a sex offender?
I think that everybody has made mistakes in life. This happened years ago.
Up the road, a conversation with Bobby Jones. It's a reminder to anyone who might dismiss those who choose Trump. There is nuance in their decisions.
That I'm not going to say he's a good man or bad man. All I'm saying is that on my stand of decency, he at least did try to help get rid of the abortion. He did try to help keep jobs going. He did try to keep jobs in the United States. He tried to look out for the people. If he did something immoral, I don't agree with that. I think it's terrible. But look at what Biden's doing. Have mercy here.
In a New York studio, in another world, the woman who a jury concluded was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump was deflecting the mud already being thrown at her.
This is not about the money. This is about getting my name back. I'm overwhelmed with happiness for the women of the country. It's really not about me so much. It's about every woman.
Her lawyer believes that in this video evidence played in court, Trump incriminated himself with this remarkable moment.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by.
Well, if you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
He continues to claim that he's never met her. Back in the place where it counts, another conversation, which reveals so much.
You know, they just want to crucify Trump, so, like I said, they all dirty. But I like Trump better. Welcome to America.
It so often feels like America has got to a place where the polarization, the entrenchment, the distrust of the other is so deep that nothing will shift views. It's a place where there is now an immunity to the unacceptable. If the question is, can a sex offender be president? Well, here, the answer feels like yes. Mark Stone, Sky News in Virginia.
Now to another Republican politician who's been embroiled in scandal from the moment he took office. US Congressman George Santos was charged with fraud and money laundering, accused of defrauding his donors and wrongly claiming unemployment benefits. This evening, he pledged to fight the witch hunt, as our US correspondent James Matthews reports.
His story is incredible, literally. George Santos is the modern-day Walter Mitty at the heart of government. He's the congressman who's told lie after lie. The courts will test his latest assertion that he's not guilty of charges against him.
I appreciate leadership for being patient at this time and for allowing the process to play out. I think this is about innocent until proven guilty. This starts. I have my right to fight to prove my innocence, as the government has the right to fight to try to find me guilty in whatever charges.
On the campaign trail, Santos told a litany of lies, including that he was an ex-Wall Street banker who'd graduated from prestigious colleges. None of it was true.
Mr. Santos, do your lies make a mockery of this place and of the American people? What would it take for you to resign, Mr. Santos?
Pardon me, guys.
Is the Republican Party tainted by your fabrications, sir?
Guys, appreciate it. Good to see you all.
Why should the public believe anything you say?
Thank you.
Santos has admitted to lying on his CV, but it hasn't stopped him keeping his seat in the House of Representatives. Republican power brokers know that his removal would threaten their slim majority.
I will not.
But now the Santos story has shifted to the courts. The charges he faces include spending political donations on himself, claiming unemployment benefit when he was in fact employed, and of lying to the House of Representatives regarding his financial affairs. His political opponents have delivered their holding verdict.
We're digesting the charging documents, but the level of fraud, the level of extremism, the continued lies throughout all of this, it's just an unfortunate thing that that we're all colleagues together, and this level of fraud that's been perpetrated on the people of New York.
The reality is it's a witch hunt, because it makes no sense that in 4 months, 5 months, I'm indicted.
This latest twist in the curious tale of George Santos presents one hard truth. He might yet swap the seat of power for a spell in prison. James Matthews, Sky News in Washington.
In Pakistan, at least 6 people have died and more than 1,000 arrested after violent protests over the detention of the country's former Prime Minister Imran Khan. The powerful military has accused demonstrators of trying to start a civil war during what's been described as a black chapter in the country's history. Well, the turmoil escalated when Imran Khan was ousted in a no-confidence vote just over a year ago. In August last year, he was charged under anti-terror laws, though that case was later dropped. A few months later, the Election Commission disqualified him from running for public office for 5 years. And during a rally in November, the former Prime Minister was shot in what he described as an assassination attempt. He was then detained yesterday and will remain in custody for at least 8 days. Sky's Cordelia Lynch reports now from Islamabad.
We're ready to die for you, they shout. The army is unacceptable. Imran Khan's supporters enraged and unrelenting. This is what we're constantly seeing, pitched battles between protesters and the police with no resolution in sight. They are demanding change. They want the shape of this country to be completely different.
Yeah, it's fine.
They feel under siege.
I'm a doctor. I've been in the protest since yesterday, and all security personnel, all agencies, they are firing straight fires on the people.
The authorities, they're not taking care of the people. You can see what's going on right now. What we just want to release Imran Khan, nothing else.
After being dragged from a courtroom by Pakistan's paramilitary, Imran Khan was back in another today. A judge ruling he could be held for 8 days on corruption charges, which he denies. His team framing it as political persecution.
वो रियासती अगवाकारी है, ये गिरफ्तारी नहीं है, ये रियासती अगवाकारी है, नंबर 1। दूसरी बात ये है कि जो इमरान खान को जिस तरीके से गिरफ्तार किया गया है, वो इस बात का जीतता जागता सबूत है कि पाकिस्तान के अंदर सबूत ये है कि पाकिस्तान के अंदर कोई कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इस वक्त मौजूद नहीं है।
Wherever you're standing, this looks like a very vulnerable moment. But the government insists the legal process must play out. While the military vowed to take action against anyone pushing Pakistan towards civil war. Dictatorships and coups are part of Pakistan's history, and so are protests. The question is whether Imran Khan's arrest will play into his hands or will create the kind of violence that only delays his central goal for an early election. What happens in the next few days could help decide that. Right now, though, The ground looks too unstable to judge. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News, Islamabad, Pakistan.
It's been 20 years since scientists first sequenced human DNA, transforming medical research. But that so-called Book of Life was based on the genes of one man of mostly European descent. Today, a more inclusive version of the genetic code was revealed, which could help personalise how diseases are treated, as our science correspondent Thomas Moore explains.
The human genome, the blueprint of our species, a 3 billion letter long genetic code with all the instructions to make you or me. Or is it? The official sequence published in 2001 as the Human Genome Project was largely based on a man of white European descent, known only as RP11, who lived in Buffalo, New York. It's a bias that matters because we're now entering a new era of genetic medicine and people of different ancestries could miss out. 99.9% of the human genome is identical across the population. It binds us together as a species. But the other 0.1% contains variations in the genetic code that reflects our ancestry. Now, in a major undertaking, scientists have published the first pan-genome. It's a genetic manual based not on just one person, but on 47 individuals of different heritage, a first step to reflecting diversity across the population. It includes 119 million new variations in the genetic code and more than 1,100 repeated sections of DNA that contain genes. In effect, they're like slightly different translations of a book that's been written in another language. As scientists say, a better understanding of more diverse DNA code should stop some groups missing out on genetic advances.
Could be that somebody is sick and we will be blind to the DNA difference that is making them sick. Or it could be because I believe that genomics will become relevant even for people as part of their routine medical care to keep them healthy, that we will be blind to a DNA difference that they have that might put them at risk for a certain condition.
Take one example, the gene for lipoprotein A, a fatty molecule in the blood. Variations in that gene are responsible for the biggest genetic risk for heart disease in African Americans. But only as a result of the pan-genome has that risk been understood. And it could lead to treatments that target the gene and are more clinically effective. 2 decades on from the first sequence of the human genome, the Book of Life has been given a long overdue rewrite so we can all benefit from the revolution in genetic medicine.
Thomas Moore reporting there. Now, the boss of John Lewis pledged today that the company will always remain employee-owned, no ifs, no buts, after her leadership was tested in a confidence vote. Dame Sharon White had been considering selling a stake in the John Lewis partnership, which also owns Waitrose, to an outside investor to try to raise £2 billion. But after falling profits and a cancelled bonus, staff rebelled, as our business correspondent Paul Kelso reports.
John Lewis is a retail group under a cloud. Its private club on the banks of the Thames, the scenic setting for a difficult meeting for chairwoman Dame Sharon White. Facing votes of confidence in her leadership from staff, known as partners, who also own the business, she sought to reassure them they would remain the boss.
The John Lewis partnership will always be an employee-owned business. Our model is the very reason I joined the partnership, because I believe profoundly in an approach of kinder capitalism in the 21st century that demonstrates our ability to combine commercial excellence with social purpose.
It was enough to win their support to take the company forward, but not to avoid defeat on her performance last year when John Lewis lost more than £230 million, and she raised the prospect of seeking outside investment for the first time. For the former boss of media regulator Ofcom, who has no previous retail experience, it's a rebellion that increases questions about her leadership.
I personally believe that you have to have an absolute focus on the trading success. In the glory years of John Lewis, many people have been very kind about the years where we were doing very well and getting a good financial return. It was an absolute obsession on satisfying our customers.
For decades, a retail bellwether that clothed, furnished and reflected middle-class Britain, John Lewis has been hit by competition online and the high street, while its Waitrose customers have sought cheaper options.
The reality is that when we get to a cost of living crisis, what matters is the best prices all the time. And, you know, what value do we put on values? I think that's an interesting question about how much we're prepared to pay. But unless John Lewis reminds us why they're better, why they're different, and why it's worth shopping with them, we will disappear.
John Lewis's business model is unique. It gives its staff benefits like access to this place and the power to hold management to account. Now, these votes were non-binding, purely symbolic, but they are a clear expression of concern about whether the current leadership has the know-how to preserve what makes it different in a harsh business environment. From crockery to Christmas ads.
Hey, Ellie.
Hi.
John Lewis is an institution, but it wouldn't be the first to discover there's no room for sentiment on the high street. Paul Kelso, Sky News in Cookham.
The House of Lords has tonight been debating the government's controversial illegal migration bill, under which anyone who enters the UK illegally would be deported and then receive a lifetime ban on settlement, citizenship and re-entry. Among the critics of the bill has been the Archbishop of Canterbury.
It is isolationist. It is morally unacceptable and politically impractical to let the poorest countries deal with the crisis alone and cut our international aid.
But speaking to Sky News this evening, the Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick, defended the government's approach.
The Archbishop and others raised the issue of morality. Well, there's nothing moral in perpetuating the trade of the people smugglers. These are amongst the most evil individuals in society today, and it's only by breaking their business model decisively, which is what this bill will do, that we can achieve that.
The Metropolitan Police has apologised to the family of murdered private investigator Daniel Morgan after documents relating to his death were found in a locked cabinet at New Scotland Yard. Mr Morgan was killed with an axe in a car park back in 1987. An independent review into the unsolved case accused the force of institutional corruption in the way it concealed its failings. Palestinian militants have fired hundreds of rockets at Israel, while Israel is pressing ahead with airstrikes which have killed 21 Palestinians. During the fighting, Egyptian state TV announced that Egypt had brokered a ceasefire between the warring sides. But shortly after that announcement, though, rockets continued to be fired by both sides. The future of the Plaid Cymru leader, Adam Price, is in doubt this evening after a damning report found the party failed to implement a zero-tolerance approach to sexual harassment. The party's senior leadership is still meeting this evening. Well, Sky's political correspondent Joe Pike is in Cardiff. And Joe, a late-night meeting after a somewhat chaotic day.
Completely chaotic, Anna. Some political parties act quickly, decisively, ruthlessly to dispatch their leaders who seem out of favour. Certainly Plaid doesn't seem to be following that model. Their meeting tonight, the special meeting of the National Executive, started 2 hours and 23 minutes ago. Still no word as to the result of it. And it follows 24 hours of rampant speculation that Adam Price is out, he's finished, he is gone. Why? Well, because of that very controversial, damning report about a culture within the party, a toxic culture of bullying, of harassment and also of misogyny. Even one former chief executive of the party said that they had been bullied. Why does all of this matter? Well, partly because Plaid are the third party here at the Senedd, but also because they have this cooperation agreement with the Welsh Government, with Welsh Labour. Because Labour have 30 out of 60 seats, they don't have a majority, and therefore Plaid can help them get through more controversial legislation. Why is there this massive delay? Well, partly, many think, because there is no clear successor to Adam Price, certainly if you discount one member of the Senedd who said that they will move to Parliament or want to move to Westminster. Therefore, we're in this sort of weird waiting game. The meeting is still ongoing. We don't know if Adam Price is staying or going. And as you say, Anna, it's all pretty chaotic and pretty farcical.
Joe, we'll see what happens. Thank you. Now, there's a lot that we already know about Cleopatra. She was Egypt's last pharaoh, famed as a great beauty, and according to historians, she ended her life by allowing herself to be bitten by a deadly cobra. But her appearance and the colour of her skin has been open to interpretation. That uncertainty and the casting of a mixed-race British actress in a new Netflix series has ignited a row over race and representation. Ashna Hernag has the story.
It's a docudrama series about an Egyptian queen, but the real drama is playing out off-screen.
I would die for Egypt. What would you die for?
Casting Adele James, a mixed-race British actor, as Cleopatra, has triggered a petition and a lawsuit out of outrage. And now a government-owned Egyptian broadcaster is making its own documentary, perhaps in protest.
I don't think it's about blackness or Afrocentrism. I think it's about how Netflix or how Western media is imposing a certain narrative of our own history and excluding Egyptians from this kind of history.
That they want told accurately. Cleopatra was an Egyptian queen of Macedonian descent, possibly with a Persian and black African background too, though this is deeply contested. So much so, the Egyptian government is insisting the ruler had lighter skin. This Elizabeth Taylor adaptation, they say, was fictional, not a documentary. Dr. Sally Ann Ashton worked on the series. She says skin tone is irrelevant.
We're trying to impose modern racialised terms such as black or white on an ancient culture that didn't recognise those terms. So I don't think it is helpful. I think, I'd far rather be talking about sort of Cleopatra's achievements as a strong sort of female character and role model, potentially.
A depiction that is open to interpretation, but as they're finding out, for some, retelling history comes with a risk of rewriting it. Ashna Hernag, Sky News.